Welcome to the NHL Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NHL Weekly Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, our beat writer for the NHL at the Grueling Truth, Sam McGinnis. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good.
We got some things to talk about today, too. And I think we're going to start off with a little Edmonton-Calgary rivalry. And you got Kassian gets suspended for 2 games after attacking Matthew Tkachuk on the ice, after Tkachuk put a couple nice hits on him a little bit earlier in the game. What do you think about the suspension here? Is it a deterrent? Should it have been stronger? Should it have been worse? And were either one of the hits Tkachuk put on Kassian, should they have been penalties?
I think the first one probably should have been. I wasn't so sure about the second one. But as for suspension, I think it should have been a little more because Tkachuk didn't really want to fight at that point. He was trying to leave. And Kassian, as you said, he just straight up grabbed him, started punching him and throwing him to the ground. That's uncalled for regardless of what had happened earlier in the game. And it's quite extreme. I felt like a 2-game suspension was a little lighter.
Because Tkachuk basically launched himself into his head, though, before. And
earlier in the game, yes. But
yeah, and I don't think Kassian wanted to get hit like that, so what's the difference?
Well, as for the hit, it was a bad hit, but as for Matthew Tkachuk, Kassian was okay. He didn't get injured. What Kassian was doing was directly attacking him. I felt like that was a bit more extreme than what Tkachuk did.
I don't know, because when I watched this hit, it looked pretty blatant to me, and nothing was done about it. So I think this is on the NHL.
It was a bad call by the refs.
Yeah,
it was a bad call by the refs.
And didn't they even look at this and say it was all right?
Yeah, they did look at it. I had watched part of the game at the time because I was able to have it on, and it was pretty bad when I was looking at it.
So I don't know. I think it's a good thing for hockey, though, because there needs to be somebody to show some passion in a regular season hockey game anyways.
Well, sure, but here's what I tell you I think should have happened. I think they both should have gotten suspended for a bit longer than that, because what Kassian did wasn't acceptable either, but neither was Tkachuk. Yeah. Can't words right now.
Tkachuk.
Yes.
Come on, say it. Tkachuk.
Tkachuk.
God bless you. All right. Had to push to get that joke in there. Yeah, but I can tell you this. If somebody comes up and hits me in the head, I'm probably going to hit them back at some point, Sam. I think this still falls with the NHL, because if they penalize this the first time, probably none of this happens.
Yeah, because Kassian definitely would have been a lot less pissed off if a call had been made, but he clearly was upset that it wasn't.
Yeah, so he got even. It cost him a couple games. Everybody will be okay. And I can't wait till they play again, which has got to be good for the NHL, though, because people are going to want to watch Edmonton and Calgary play again now.
Yes, they will.
And it should be exciting. All right, Sidney Crosby returned to the Pittsburgh Penguins after being out for 2 months because of a core injury. How will this affect their team and their Stanley Cup chances? Does this greatly improve their chances, Sam?
I think it definitely sends it to the next level, because they were already doing very good without Sidney Crosby, which is a surprise because he's their best star forward. But Evgeny Malkin in the offense has been already fantastic, and Sidney Crosby got 4 points in his first game back. He's just another deadly weapon along with all the others, and they've gone from dark horse candidate for the Stanley Cup to one of the top 5 teams, in my opinion, that could get that cup this year.
All right, Morgan Riley's knee injury and Jake Muzzin, however you say that, Muzzin, foot injury puts an already bad Maple Leafs defense on its heels. How big of an effect does this have on the Maple Leafs charge for the playoffs?
Well, I still think they'll make the playoffs, but I think it has a lot more to do with what will now happen in the playoffs, because their defense, as you said, is already bad. But then losing top defensemen like that just is the death blow. And I don't think they'll, regardless of who they play, I don't think they'll be able to win if they play any sort of a competent defense, because the problem is that in the past, the reason Boston has been able to beat them so many times in a row is because that defense has been so horrendous. And now you're taking away the 2 players that might have been able to make that difference.
All right, and of course, we've got the coaching purge keeps going as Vegas Golden Knights coach Gerard Gallant was fired as the coaching purge continues. He was replaced by Peter DeBoer. What do you think of this move, and where will he go next to coach?
I actually think it was a bad move. Look at where he had taken the Golden Knights in the past. First year to the Stanley Cup final. Second year to the first round of the playoffs, and they almost came out with a win there as well. And they weren't doing bad when they fired him either, or they weren't doing like really badly. Like they had done decently during that time and were in a playoff spot. So I don't see why they should have fired him there. But as for where he's going, I have actually heard, and I would love this to happen, although I think it's unlikely. I have heard the Detroit Red Wings want.
Yeah, but why would he want to go there? Doesn't he want to coach in the NHL?
Yeah, that's why I think he probably won't, because nobody wants the reputation of Detroit right now over them. So,
all right. Other injury news: Carter Hart is out for 2 to 3 weeks. How does this affect the Flyers' short-term future, Sam?
Well, I've watched the Flyers 2 times in the past week, and I'll tell you, they're actually doing really well even without Carter Hart. Elliott has stepped up even in his older age as a goalie and has done very well. And the team as a whole has gone out and just beaten big teams. I mean, like, look at the teams they've beaten recently. They beat the Capitals and they beat the Blues, both on Wednesday Night Hockey in primetime, both top 2 teams in the league. I don't see this being much of a problem.
Yeah, and I also think with a sport like this, unless it's a Sidney Crosby or a big-time star here, it really shouldn't affect you anyways if you're that good of a team.
Well, absolutely, although Carter Hart is their starting goaltender.
I know he's a starting goalie, but you got to have a second one too.
That's true. Elliott has stepped up.
Yeah, so they'll be all right, I think. It's only 2 to 3 weeks, and I think the Flyers long-term is what's more important. And I think short-term, I don't think this really affects them that much.
Nah.
But all right, Nicholas Backstrom, extended by the Capitals for the next 5 years at $46 million. He's 32 years old. A 5-year contract extension at $9 million a year. And he did this without an agent. Do you think this is a smart move by the Capitals?
Yeah, they have to re-sign some of their big names, and they are going to be in a cap crunch. But he is one of the key players as to them being where they are. I think the only player that would be more significant for that organization would be Alex Ovechkin. But as for that move, it was really it was a smart move, and I think it was very interesting that he did it without an agent, that he was able to successfully and get himself a good contract without one.
Well, he gets all his money that way too.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I was just surprising.
How big is this for the Capitals with Braden Holtby being a free agent, unrestricted free agent at the end of the year? And what do you think they need to do here now?
That will depend, because they have to decide how important Braden Holtby is, because they're getting very close to that cap crunch that I was talking about. They may actually not be able to pay Braden Holtby and just have to start going with their backup. I think without Holtby, they won't be as good, but I certainly think they'll still be a very good team even without him, because their backup isn't terrible, and they can always find other goalies that are still aspiring, like Carter Hart, for instance, coming up through the minors and all that.
All right, now the San Jose Sharks had a long championship window, it seemed like, closes after years of coming up short. Do you think the window is truly closed, and what do you think the future in San Jose looks like for the Sharks?
So I'm about to be the guy of doom and gloom here, because I honestly think the age of the Sharks just killed them. I believe last year was really their last shot at it, and as we saw, they lost to the Blues in 6. They should have won probably 2 championships at least in this period because of how good they were, but they would always choke it away. I mean, look at they're up 3-0 in the series against the LA Kings, and they lose 4 straight. Things like that just drive fans insane, that should have been but never is. So it's one of those things where the window, I believe, has been slammed shut because of their age and because of the loss of their captain, Joe Pavelski. I don't see them coming back for a while.
All right, let's move on to the Calgary Flames, which we talked about them and the Edmonton Oilers and that rivalry a little bit earlier. They are now one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the NHL, on a 5-game winning streak. They've taken over the lead of the Pacific Division. Do you think this is a team to build to finish this and win the Pacific?
I think they're a good team, but I don't think they'll finish this out. I think the Vegas Golden Knights will come back and take this division because everybody is within a close number of points. I think everybody on the top 4 is within a game, which is 2 points. So I could see anybody taking this, but I would bet my money on the Vegas Golden Knights.
But would it be smart to bet your money on the Vegas Golden Knights because they had a coach that was doing well? They got rid of him. Could that signal that maybe there's some more deeper underlying problems in Vegas?
It could, but the coach they got, Peter DeBoer, is also a good coach. And there's enough talent in Vegas that I can still see them coming out. And I mean, adversity has never been a problem for them. If you look at their first year in the NHL, there was a ton of adversity surrounding that team, and they rose all the way to the Stanley Cup. So I don't really see any kind of those issues being a problem for them.
All right, now the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that we had their beat writer Stu Mason on a couple weeks ago, and you basically mocked Stu when he said he thought they had a chance to make the playoffs, and now they continue to win, and it looks like Stu was right, and you were wrong, Sam. So what has been the key to their success, and what do you think they need to do to get that final playoff spot?
I think it goes back to the old saying, next man up. If you look at Jonas Korpisalo, their all-star, got injured. Elvis has come up, and he has done a pretty good job in net. He had back-to-back shutouts and another win just the other night against the Carolina Hurricanes. They're winning in division, as we said they would need to do. And I think what it comes down to is they really have to, no matter what comes about, they have to be able to do what they have been, which is next man up.
All right, now Doogie Hamilton, which is an awesome name, by the way. I called him Doogie because of Doogie Howser. I know it's Dougie. But he has a leg ankle injury. You probably don't. Have you ever heard of Doogie Howser?
I have not.
Really? It was a TV show back in I think it was the late 80s, about this kid that was born a genius and actually graduated medical school when he was like 12 or 13 years old and then became a doctor.
Well, hey.
All right. Well, it sounds like Sam has no interest in Doogie Howser, but when you look at Dougie Hamilton, how do you think this will affect the Hurricanes' defense?
I mean, it really depends on how long he's going to be out, because I was watching the game when it happened, and it was really bad. He rolled right back up on his ankle. That could be a broken ankle or broken leg. It could be a severe injury. So really, I think it depends on the severity because we don't know yet. But if it's long-term, that could be a significant blow to Carolina's defense.
All right. Now, when we look at the trade deadline that's coming up, who do you think is most likely to get traded? Any predictions on the trade deadline?
One of the first ones I'd have to do is Craig Anderson, goaltender for the Ottawa Senators. He's a good goalie, but in recent years has been struggling. Now that's because the Ottawa's defense is absolutely atrocious. But I think if a needing team like if the Flyers wanted to get him, they might be able to and have a third goalie in the mix. I think he's definitely one of the top people I would pick if I needed a goalie. As for forwards, I think Jason Zucker is definitely one that could go from Minnesota. Minnesota's really not getting enough to get to the playoffs, and I think they're realizing that at this point. So trading Zucker might be a good idea for future picks.
All right. Alex Ovechkin, whatever. Marc-Andre Fleury, both among big names to skip the All-Star game. What are your thoughts on guys skipping the All-Star game?
I liked Alex Ovechkin's reason. He said he had to listen to his body, and I understand that because that comes back to less of the fame side of things and more to the I want to win, because he's taking a rest and giving his body what it needs to go further. And I think Marc-Andre Fleury, is very similar, and I understand that. They're both older players that need the extra rest.
Yeah, you're hung up on this older people needing an extra rest, aren't you?
I mean, it's just true.
It is true, unfortunately. All right, go ahead and give me your top 5 NHL power rankings for right now.
Okay, I think at number 5, I actually have to put the Tampa Bay Lightning. Although they did have an interesting loss last night to the Minnesota Wild, they have not won there in Minnesota since 2011. But they are doing very well. They were 9-1 in their last 10 games and had a significant streak not long ago, and it's gotten them back in the race and possibly contention for their division here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the guy that's really stuck out to me here is Anthony Cicarelli. Cicarelli? Yeah, I think I said that right, but I can't see what I wrote
Hockey names
down.
are tough.
I mean, he's a 22-year-old, I think, is building a case for being one of the best two-way centers in the NHL.
Yeah, you got, like, again, when we were talking about new people coming in with all those other teams, the NHL is actually getting significantly younger because talent continues to come up through the ranks and just having success, and it was good on him to be doing what he is doing.
Yeah, and I think that's impressed me most about him is it seems like the bigger role that he's given and the more responsibility he's given, the better he has responded.
Yes, it's definitely been bigger and better for him.
All right, who you got at number 4?
Number 4, I actually have the Boston Bruins. Now, I put them ahead of the Lightning because overall, as a team in most statistical categories, they're better than the Lightning, but I would not be surprised to see the Lightning pass them here soon, especially since they had their recent 1-5-4 last 10 games, which was terrible. Now, they recovered from that somewhat, but they also lost to the Blue Jackets recently, and they don't seem to be quite themselves. Maybe they'll get back to it after the All-Star break, but it does seem like they're a bit sluggish.
Yeah, and I think a guy that's been a key here, will be a key getting them back is, you get the Bruins' perfection line, but a guy who's not on that line has done a great job, been kind of overshadowed by the perfection line is Jake DeBrusk.
Yeah, good player, and I personally believe a little underrated as well. Definitely, especially when it comes to the NHL, you need more than one line, and I think he's been helpful for them outside of that first line.
All right, number 3, Sam.
Number 3, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. As I talked about, they've gone from dark horse to one of the leading contenders for the Stanley Cup. Their offense is magnificent. Their goaltending from Tristan Jarry has been unreal, and their defense hasn't been bad either. So I think they really do have all the pieces at this point to make another run at it.
Yeah, if they could just stay healthy. And I know Sidney Crosby's coming back, but I think a guy that's key here, if they could keep him healthy, is Brian Rust.
Yeah, I think the biggest key would come down to Tristan Jarry because if their goaltending fell apart, they would not make it much of anywhere. I mean, we saw Matt Murray last year against a not great offense in the New York Islanders, and they still were getting 4 goals on him a game.
All right, number 2. I know where you're going with this. I bet I can guess your 1 and 2. I'm just waiting to see what your order is.
My number 2 is the Washington Capitals, actually.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going with it, so we're good.
Yeah, I'm going to have the Blues at number 1, but for now, the Capitals humming away. They're doing, as they always do, great offense. Power play is fun to watch, and Ovechkin is now 11th in the all-time goals leaderboard. So he just broke that record. Their defense is top 15. Overall, there's nothing to be upset about when it comes to the Capitals. The question, as always for them, comes to the playoffs.
All right, and I'm assuming number 1 is the St. Louis Blues then.
Yes, the St. Louis Blues. Now, although they recently had a loss to Philadelphia, it was close, but that's not why I have them up here. They had a recent 9-game home winning streak, which ties their franchise all-time record. Their offense has done very well, and I think specifically along the boards and in dirty places behind the net and so forth is where they are best at. And it's really shown the grittiness of the team. It wears other teams down throughout the game. It's very fun to watch and has helped them have quite a bit of success.
Yeah, and the Blues, the guy that's really stuck out to me is Robert Thomas. I mean, he's a 20-year-old forward who's on track for career highs in goals and assists. He has 27 points in 43 games. And how much longer before his ice time increases? He's still getting less than 14 minutes a game.
I think it's because they already have a lot of very good players at the position that they're not giving him more time, but I think it is certainly coming for him.
All right, Sam, anything else we want to discuss before we wrap it up?
No, that was good.
All right. So, Sam, you want to tell everybody where they can find you, since now you have a Twitter handle that is easier to remember?
Yeah, it's at Samuel McG22 for both Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that on there.
All right, guys, and you can follow me at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows. Make sure you check out our NFL Conference Championship preview show today. We did with former 49er legend Randy Cross. You can hear all of our shows anywhere you find sports podcasts, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find it, you'll find us. So for Sam McGinnis, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.